Hey everybody, this is Sean with Tap Performance. Today I'm going to go through the installation process of a Stage 1 kit on an Indian Thunderstroke. That includes a PowerVision 3, a K&N drop-in air cleaner, and a set of Tap Performance slip-ons. Alright, we'll go ahead and do the air cleaner first. First step, we're going to remove this outer cover. To take that off, we have 3 bolts that require a 4mm Allen. Once the bolts are out, we can go ahead and just take the cover right off. That will expose our stock air filter. To get the filter off, we have 3 more bolts, and that is an 8mm. With those 3 bolts removed, we can just simply pull off the stock air cleaner. There it is, and we'll go ahead and replace it with the K&N. Alright, so here is the stock filter next to the K&N drop-in filter. As you can see, the K&N is just a little bit wider, which gives it more surface area, which allows more air to get into your engine. Also, the stock filter is a paper filter. This one is a cotton and wire mesh. And it also is reusable, so you can always wash it and never have to replace it. So once you get that stock one out of there, I'm just going to take the K&N drop-in, put it right back where the stock one was. You do want to make sure this is seated and in place before you start putting your bolts in. As I said, this one is a little bit wider, a bit thicker, so if you don't have this seated properly and go to put your cover back on, it won't allow your cover to seat properly. So just make sure it's in position, everything's lined up. Once everything is lined up, then we can go ahead and install our bolts. Alright, with your filter bolted into position, next we can install our cover. Just slips right back into position, and this is where you'll be able to tell if you have your filter seated properly. If it's not seated, it'll kind of push on this cover here and it'll be kind of hard to line up your bolts. So just make sure everything's where it needs to be, and then once you get that, then we can just go ahead and put our 3 bolts back in. To remove the bags, we have to disconnect our wiring harness for the locking mechanism. That's underneath our side cover here. To remove that on both sides, there's a little plug, you just disconnect, pull that out. The wiring harness disconnected, now we can go into the bag and remove our 2 bolts. That's our 6mm Allen. Back both of those out. Alright, once the bags are off, we can go ahead and start loosening some of the clamps that are holding on this muffler. We have our heat shield, which is clamped onto the muffler itself, so we'll need to loosen that. If you are using the stock head pipe, it'll be a 1/4 inch socket. If you have the Tap Performance head pipe, it'll be a 5/16. Once we get that loosened, then we can loosen up our muffler clamp, and that's a 15mm. And you don't need to back these all the way out, you can just loosen them to where there's enough free play to where you can get the muffler off. Alright, with that all loose, we'll move to the back side. We have 2 bolts to take out. It's a 13mm socket. We will be reusing the exhaust clamp, so keep those. When you're putting the clamp back on, make sure that the nut is facing down and out, so that way we can reach it when it's underneath. Alright, so there is a little bit of play back here with where you can tighten the bolts. I like to just do it right past the weld on our muffler so it's not seen, and it makes a nice seam with the heat shield of the muffler. Once you got that lined up, just go ahead and reinstall the bolts. Just get them loosely tightened. Once you get those finger tight and you like where this is sitting up here, just go ahead and button them down. Next we'll tighten our heat shield and our muffler clamp. Again, if you have the Tab Performance head pipe, this side will be a 5/16 on that heat shield. Process is going to be the exact same for the left hand side. We have a hose clamp that we need to loosen, that'll be a 1/4 inch, and then we have our muffler clamp, that's a 15 millimeter. Now we can put the bags back on. We'll install the power vision. Power vision needs to get connected to our diagnostic port, and that's underneath the left hand side cover, so just go ahead and leave that off. Our diagnostic port is plugged in right here. It's not plugged into anything, that's just a protective cap, so just pull that out. Next we'll take our supplied diagnostics cable, plug it in to the port. Plug that into the power vision itself. Once we have that plugged in, we'll go ahead and put the bike in the run position. You'll see it light up. Alright, so once you power up your bike, the power vision will turn on, and once it turns on, you'll get one of 3 file states that shows up on your little screen here. File state number 1 will be no compatible tune or stock files. Number 2 is no compatible tune files, and number 3 is all required files found. So depending on which one you get, just follow the prompts either on the power vision itself or it's in the instructions as well. So if you get number 1, no compatible tune or stock files, that's what I got here. You'll just have to do an ECU read, and that takes about 15 minutes for the power vision to read your ECU. So if that's the case, it may be a good idea to plug your bike into a tender, because your bike will have to be on for that entire 15-minute process if that's how long it takes. Number 2, no compatible tune files. If that's the case, all you have to do is go to dynajet.com and download a tune onto the power vision itself. And number 3, that's basically best case scenario. All you have to do is go on to the next step from there. So next step for me will be, it has read the ECU successfully, so I'm going to go ahead and hit enter. And now that I did the ECU read, it has found all required files, so I can just go ahead and start to select a tune. The next step is just to pick a tune that you want to flash. It'll bring you to the tune library. If you want to find out what the tune is, all you have to do is click on it and it'll give you a little description. On this one we have a set of slip-ons, the K&N air intake and the stock head pipe, so I'm going to find one that best matches that setup there. Alright, once you found one that you want to flash to your bike, just go ahead and select it and hit enter, and then it'll say that your bike is not paired, and it'll ask you if you want to connect this device to your vehicle, and this will marry this PowerVision to your motorcycle. Alright, once the flash is complete, you can go ahead and turn your key off, and then you should wait about 45 seconds, and then you can turn it back on, and from there your bike should be good to go. You can do one of two things. You can go ahead and take this PowerVision off and put it in your saddlebag or wherever until you need to use it again. What we like to do is we like to leave it connected, route the diagnostic cable up underneath the tank and up to the handlebars so we can mount it on our handlebars, because there's a bunch of different gauges that you can set up and watch while you're riding. There's RPM, fuel consumption, engine temperature, air intake temperature, stuff like that. So it's just kind of cool to see all those different things that are going on in your bike. I'm going to disconnect this one for now. That back in the plastic cover. Then we'll take our side cover here, put it back on. And that's all there is to it. So it's just a couple bolts to get the K&N air cleaner in there, and it's just a couple pushes of a button to get the tune flashed. So it's pretty straightforward, but that's all there is to it, and now we are ready to ride.